your very existence is the fulfillment of an ancient prophecy uttered ages, maybe eons ago. And now, after many ages past, trial and tribulations outlast, your survival, your success, your ascension is like a carbon footprint of a reality that's been regarded as mere fantasy in this day and age. It was a time when the matriarch was highly respected and revered, when spiritual and emotional intelligence was at an all-time high, and balance and harmony were just an everyday way of life. Well, now you're here to run it back. And you're bringing it back with all of the novelty of its past existence, but even with something more new and improved and evolved to perfectly fit this new era, this new age at hand. What's up, everybody? It's me, Danae. I'm here with a message for you. And today is Thursday, July 2nd, 2026, 3:03 on the clock, if you can believe that. And I felt guided to pull the pre-shuffle cards from the Chosen Ones 144 deck by Maji the High Priestess. Maji Got the Tea is her YouTube channel. And I don't reach for these cards too often, but when I do, it's always, always, always a powerful message. And so when I got the nudge to reach for them today to pre-shuffle, I knew it was going to be something special. And at last it is. So I'm not going to continue on. As a matter of fact, I don't even have the cards out. There is that. I was so consumed by that message that I forgot to pull the cards that we're going to use for, and look at what's on the top, Temperance. We're going to use Intuitive Kev's iKev Tarot deck for the main message and see where we're going with this. But that's a lovely way to start. Balance and harmony, indeed. And there's Black Magic. So the other side of this message that I'll actually even show you so you know it is what it is. Ace of Cups, even more confirming for what I'm about to say, is that there's some strong energies that are quite opposed to perhaps the presence of this prophecy fulfilled, or the evidence of its fulfillment, and the progression of it, or the advancement of it into some new ideal realization. But of course, as it stands, when it's, a divine order and in divine timing, there are no forces that can successfully stand against it, okay? Like, this is like a dream of the divine finally coming into fruition that will not be stopped. But what I had over here that kind of slid out when I set the cards down on the side was spell work, evil family members. On the bottom is enemies, and you have the gift of courage. And and do not worry. So all of this kind of in between the most negative aspects one could imagine. Spell work, and it coming from a place like an oppositional force, such as so intimate that it could even be as close as family, or someone that you trusted or revere to be family, or that you would never expect a certain resistance to come from. But the message, the reassuring message in between every card is, and let me see what's after enemy, because I didn't see. Oh, rebirth. Look at that. Oh, and deja vu. That's crazy. That's crazy. So the reassuring cards between all of the negative messaging was something reassuring and affirming. So to bring back into balance and to center that sense of peace and security is the divine, just letting you know, like, no matter what the resistance may, how the resistance may persist, everything is on track according to what's already been ordained and established long time ago. And it's, I mean, if there's nothing more affirming and reassuring as you being present as I said, like a carbon footprint of sorts, in modern times, you know, like, it's like you're the fulfillment. So if you're here at this timeline, at this stage in fulfillment, then that's something more to be that's more of the centric focus and the point of celebration and again, confirmation, than anything that would present itself to be contrary to that truth and that reality. So it's like everything else that might work up against or try to present itself to challenge that truth can ultimately be disregarded at this time, you know, in a nutshell, more or less. Like, it's like, I suppose perhaps it can be recognized, the presence of it can be recognized as it, you know, made its presence known even in the cards, but only for the purposes of awareness, you know, but certainly not for anything, not to be affected in any way beyond that. It's like when you know there's a dog nearby that, you know, might sometimes get off the leash, or might sometimes get out of the neighbor's yard or whatever. Or no, not even that, because I'm immediately being corrected. It's like having a neighbor with a dog that's always in the yard, and they might bark, and they might even be a breed that would generally project a threat, you know. But the reality is that they're still locked behind a gate. They're still on a tight leash. And no matter how much they bark and hoop and holler and jump and growl, there's only but so far they can go, and there is only but so much damage or so much of a threat they can actually cause, unless that owner gives them permission or releases them from their captivity, which in this case is not likely to happen. And so that's just that. All right, so let's see what we got here. Three of Wands. Yeah, great expectations on the horizon. Something good to look forward to. Positive outlook. Oh, the Ace of Pentacles. Yes, I'm here for it. New beginning. Again, a prosperous new beginning at that. Some type of infinite seed or investment that is dependable, that's exponential, that has unlimited potential. Could even be the inheritance of this, you know, this ancient bloodline finally being passed down to its rightful beneficiary. Even the information, the awareness, the understanding is a part of that inheritance. The personal realization of who you are and what stock you come from, whether it be in spirit or in truth. Because of course, you see Lemurian blood here, dreams come true and success. It may or may not be a direct, because Lemuria is supposed to be the not society, but like I can't think of the word, but for lack of a better word, like the society that predated even the Atlantis society, where they are the predecessors of what we consider to be ancient and almost fantastical, and you don't really know like if they really existed or if it's just a mythology or whatever. So something even that predated or preceded that is even more hard to fathom, you know. So whether or not it's true and the and historically or actually, you know, it's still something about there being such a reserve of fortune and favor, of which in this breath of life you have no point of reference for, really. You know, like you couldn't reach back far enough in your historical research to really find the direct bloodlines that connect to a lineage such as this, because the historical records weren't maintained in the way that we are used to them being maintained today, where they're trackable. This is something that you almost have to know energetically, or like I said, telepathically, psychologically, intuitively. You know, this has to be a knowing in your being that you connect with innately and almost supernaturally, for it to ring true to you, you know, or for you to accept it as truth and ultimately be in alignment for this disbursement or dispensation, if you will, of fortune that is ascended from it or descendant of it, if that makes sense. Anyway, so social media, right? And this is interesting because this is obviously the most evolved aspect of communication in our society, you know, as we know it now, where there's so much connectivity, it's almost a detriment in some ways, but of course, in many ways it's not. So it's something like that where, to me, as I said, with the Ace of Pentacles, it's like this passing down of something so ancient, such a relic, so, I don't even know, like, I don't even really have, I don't think, proper words to express it, but the way that, first of all, it's a pentacle, so that gives way to it being something quite tangible and real, like something that you can actually conceive of in a natural and physical sense, that's being passed down through channels that are more grounding, like more reliable. So it's making something, as I said in the beginning, that was kind of relegated to mythology or fantasy, more grounded and realistic, like something that you can actually a more acceptable truth, and maybe palatable, digestible truth, than just folklore or fantasy or mythology or whatever. It's like something about the channels that it's being expressed through or shared through, even by way of are making something, are making a fantastical truth an undeniable reality. And that could just be the again, that transference of fortune and wealth that is becoming a realization in your waking life in a way that it almost doesn't make sense. There's no real dots to connect to it in a physical in the physical reality, like this is why you're in line for this, or you did all the things that traditionally, conventionally, that are deemed sequential steps toward a certain success or self-actualization, that is like, oh, okay, well, I see, that makes sense. Or a cause and effect, like, okay, obviously that was the next course of 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 expression or experience, because X, Y, and Z happened. It's something so much more, again, supernatural than that the origin of it is like a sign and a wonder of an ancient time, but the grounding of it and the reality of it is undeniable, in a way that you may be able to connect the dots to in a way that expands faith expands perception in a way to advance faith for such an experience personally, for those that perceive of it. But on the surface of it all, like I said, it looks like something like a miracle, or something like, how did that happen? Or, that can't be real, or that has, like, I'm trying to say this right, but maybe it's just supposed to be experienced more than explained. But it's something so fantastical about whatever this realization of reality is, on an individual level and on a collective level, that it won't make sense to the natural eye, or to the human limited perspective or conception of creativity, okay? But maybe that's the point, to expand the mind and alleviate those limitations, to see something from a broader scope. Like that's probably the purpose of it all, and why I'm saying like something's a carbon footprint of the past, but it's also like new and improved and evolved for the present. So it's like what was that we consider like, oh, that was just a myth, or that didn't really exist, or some believe, some don't. It will be undeniable in the way that it expresses itself or realizes itself in physical form presently. But even still, you would have to be receptive to the concept, to the conception of this reality, as it exemplifies itself or is evident in this present time. So it's like somebody getting a windfall, right? Or there being some accelerated elevation of status or achievement, again, success, dreams, coming into fruition, things that have been in the works for a long time, just suddenly, like overnight success almost type of energy. There are some ways, especially with social media, that's kind of closed the gap on how possible that can be. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, with social media, it really isn't all that hard to be an overnight sensation or some type of breakout star, or what do you call it, like whatever, you know. It doesn't make it, it's not actually that hard to conceive of that somebody could like go viral, you know, from one little video or whatever, or a short even, and that could take you to places or to exposures that you had never experienced before. But it's that, you know, we have the proper channels, perhaps to maybe 3:22 on the clock, to perhaps project this reality and this truth that may have once upon a time kind of gone on under the radar, and it wouldn't have been so widespread and wide known, or had so much, you know, been, you know, has had such legs or traveling capability, if you will. But what it is that's being transmitted or shared or put on display, promoted, it's like a prophecy that's being televised, so to speak. You know, that's what I'm getting here, which of course opens it up to more skepticism, but it also opens up to more to a deeper belief and faith, just on account of the higher ratio of visibility. I know that's probably so much, but hopefully you get what I'm trying to say here, because the spirit is just pushing me to try to, there's like pushing me to try to expound on it, but then of course there's something pushing me back, and I know it's Mercury retrograde, and I've been feeling the resistance since the pre-shadow 2 weeks ago. But this seems like something really powerful to say, but I'm just going to have to trust that, you know, wherever I fall short, the spirit will, finish my thought. Six of Cups, something from the past. Something balanced and sweet and harmonious of the past at that. Nostalgic for all the right reasons, but it's in this time though. It's advanced, it's enhanced to suit the present age. Right after social media. And I'm hearing now, I've said this term that came up to me, and I think it was a message earlier this week or last week, I can't remember, but a righteous renaissance. And I'm just hearing like the righteous renaissance will be televised. It will be, it's like the scripture about like pretty much like there will be a witness to the evolution of creation on a grand scale. Now, how you receive that, how you, let's say like how you interpret what you perceive, and then on the account of that receive the message, is, you know, up to each individual, because everyone won't be privy to the spectacle in whatever way it plays out. It may be you seeing your neighbor come up, or you seeing yourself come up, you know, whatever, but, or you seeing like this massive wave of success and prominence and prosperity that is, you know, might not be on the mainstream news, or maybe it will, but it'll certainly circulate in social media, where most news is trusted now, more trusted anyway, that people have ascended to some new level, so have transcended beyond the mundane and oppressive conditions of life that we've all, just kind of made agreement with in some way, shape, or form. Like, to see the evidence of there being a new wave, a new footprint, a new reality that's taken form, some will see that and it will strengthen their faith and belief for their own personal realization, and some will reject it or they won't believe it, But like I said, imagine like in Jesus's time, right? Now there wasn't as great of a population on the earth, I don't imagine, I'm pretty sure, but imagine like how long it took for the gospel, quote unquote, to circulate the globe. And it probably still hasn't, I don't know, who knows? But at least in his part of the world, right? Let's consider that this is a real story, no matter what you believe. Imagine how long it must have taken just for him and his 12 disciples on foot to spread the word that they had come, that they felt assigned to share. And then for people to tell somebody, and so on and so forth. Like, it's taken ages, it's taken millennium to circulate, and it still has mixed reviews, and it's still, so I'm saying that there's something that is being dispersed, that has some type of tangible, evidential, like almost hardcore evidence, where it's undeniable, and the channels by which it gets to be shared are even more reliable than, say, a Jesus's time. And even still, imagine the lack of efficiency in communication back then, and still it's like one of the biggest, religious practices, on account of it being starting in one isolated place. So now with all of the channels, literally look at all these platforms and witnesses and testimonials and so on and so forth, that those that are awakening to a certain truth have to express it, it has the potential to expand and expound at even a more accelerated rate. And, in this case, it's a truth that's been tried by fire and purified in a way that, unlike in Jesus's time and even through the Bible and its many interpretations and rewrites and edits and so on and so forth, we're still grappling with what's real and what's not, what's symbolic and what was actual, what was someone else's interpretation or misinterpretation, and what was originally meant, and so on and so forth. It's something about this 3:30 on the clock, that's crazy. Something about this that is going to transmit so clearly that it'll be much less room for error and edit and misinterpretation. Now, the perception of it is a different thing, because I'm talking about the communication of it, the transmission of it is pure. It will be stripped down, it'll be true, it'll be trustworthy, let's say, reliable information or content. Here it is, content, essence of truth. The receiver, however, is still questionable, because everyone has their own perception, so that, like I said, the difference is in the positive aspect of this is that whatever is being dispensed or dispersed has a higher efficacy rate of impact, to promote change and ascendance and evolution and all the ways that the divine designs for it to be so, because of the means of transmission that are much more efficient than they've ever been before. If that makes sense. All right, let's get a couple more. Oh, that's too many, but that's the Nine of Cups. Ooh, the Ace of Swords and karmic connection. Well, karmic connection is definitely kind of out of here, but the Ace of Swords and Nine of Cups, yes, something that's going to be very comforting, and that brings, oh, okay, so it can bring us, it's the sword, so it can oh, okay, so it's not off at all, because you know how, like, I think it was Jesus that said, like, he came to bring the sword, you know, like, it'll either bring people together or drive people apart. And that could even be individually within your own being, like whatever it is about to be confirmed from spirit into truth, into flesh. It can either bring you into your whole self, you know, into a whole space of contentment and security, or it can tear you apart where you don't know what to believe, you don't know what to think, you know. And I guess that just depends on who's primed for this transmission of truth and who's not, you know, like who's been kind of like charging their frequency and staying open to evolution in whatever form it would be dispensed and dispersed. And that would be the disparity between those that receive it in all its glory, whatever it is, and know how to what's the right word, to integrate with it, or to what's the word, like put it into play in their lives, you know, like not assert it, but that's a word too. Activate it, perhaps, maybe activate it in their waking life, and those that perceive it and say that, you know, this is bullshit, you know, this is, or blasphemy, or demonic, or whatever, you know, however they perceive it based on their own wiring and conditioning, is going to be the difference here. And that's what that sword of truth is going to, that's the distinction, the sword, the separation, the sword of truth is going to make. And in this day, that's another thing, like, and I feel like that's probably why AI has been promoted as much as it has, because it kind of leaves that room for skepticism, like a reasonable measure of response of skepticism in the air, because these days, especially online, you really don't know what you're looking at. And so that's why it's like important to, okay, that's why I'm saying something about your channels, because it's about discernment. It's like certain people have been priming their channels to discern truth from illusion or from a lie for a while now, just in their waking life. So when this big transmission comes to be, or as it already is, I'm not even sure, perhaps they will almost instinctively know what they're looking at, or what they're hearing, or what they're feeling, and maybe all of those things all together, you know, which goes back to what I was saying about a time when there was more spiritual and emotional intelligence. In Lemurian ages, they spoke telepathically, you know, they lived communally, They valued their spiritual existence just as much as they did their physical one. They were more straddled between those worlds harmoniously than exclusively carnally, you know. So anyway, you kind of, and not much is different in this time when it comes to being a receptor of truth. If you're too weighed down in carnal aspects exclusively, your heart might not be light enough, your mind might not be open enough to perceive what exists beyond the physical world, let alone to believe it if you do perceive it, you know. So there it is. It's like you would have to be primed in some way to receive the reality and then again integrate with it and assert it, you know, the reality for yourself as truth. But again, of course, this still does go back to what I was saying of that, the examples, the testimonials, the sharing that gets to happen, where that could be something that's happening individually, but once upon a time, you may not know about it or know about it so quickly as you could now, where people are jumping online every day, sharing their truth and their personal experiences. You best believe it's going to happen as this begins to unfold, you know, or begins to wave through the collective consciousness, and however it's about to. People are going to share. And of course, some are going to refute and challenge and dismiss and so on and so forth. But the resonance of the reality, I believe, is going to be so strong, at least with those that have a firsthand experience, that it's not going to deter you from sharing. You know, like back in the day when Christians would share their encounter with Jesus or with the Holy Spirit that they believed to encounter even after Jesus's resurrection, or however they felt touched by that practice. It was forbidden and condemned for a very long time, to the point where, you know, you were quite rebellious to share, if you shared at all, quite brave and bold. And then even when it became, you know, an accepted religious practice, there's still, even till this day, you know, there's a great deal of resistance against it. So it's like when you, and that was, I believe, as it was even expressed by Jesus, like, you, in one of the Gospels, as he's talking to the disciples, like, you see me, you have personal experience with me, and you believe. Blessed are those that have no point of physical reference, you know, that have no reason to actually believe, and yet they do. They have the faith with all their heart to believe on something that they never saw, you know. So it's something like that that's transmitting here in modern day, where it's like this experience is going to be so real for some that you probably won't be able to help but share. And the difference is, like I said, although there may be resistance and opposition and challenge, there will also be a higher rate of those that are at least intrigued or fascinated or engaged with this testimony enough for it to potentially build faith at a greater speed and resonance, due to the channel that is more efficient than once before. It's like salvation on steroids. Like supercharged, you know, like Wi-Fi transmitted, you know, what is it called? Fios speed salvation on a whole nother level. And don't get me wrong, I'm not containing it to it being a Christian salvation. is something much more expansive than that. Maybe perhaps that was always supposed to be more expansive than that, because remember, Christian was a man-made term. That was not what people called themselves or even were called before it was popularized and modernized. So this is something else. It's something much more ancient, like the beginning of time. Like I said, what the divine design for creation perhaps always was, and as I said, got distorted through channels down the line, or inefficient channels, or severed channels down the line. Now it's like perfect time and 3:41 on the clock to come back around to regenerate in a way where it can't get lost in translation, especially not for those that are in alignment to fully receive it and then record it, or I'm hearing resounded, but like regurgitated or something like that. Yeah. And here it is, black magic, always the interference. Of course, nothing's and nothing unusual here, nothing to see. Just that natural polarity and duality that exists. What was that? 7 of Wands. But yeah, protection. She's in a protective bubble. Let me see if I could. Oh, not the 5 of Wands. Let's see. Just to show you that the agenda is still protected no matter what. Yeah. From the oh, that's the 7 of Pentacles, but from the 5 of Wands, those that want to continue to impose a threat or competition, or again, resistance, conflict to the natural occurrence of divine order. It's just like this, and this social media is probably, I can imagine, like the World card. I wonder if there is, no, but this is the tarot deck, so it probably is a World card in here. But sometimes when the World card comes up, it can imply, you know, the internet or the World Wide Web, you know. Page of Swords. Yeah, and it's just, I mean, I'm going to say, like, this is like resistance out of ignorance, just sheer ignorance. And I feel like the privilege, the chosenness comes, you know, especially of those that initially receive the truth, the gospel, the invitation, the salvation, if you will, outright, you know, initially. Don't need to be, don't necessarily need to be persuaded or seduced in any particular way. That is even an aspect of privilege. But like I said, it comes on account of the responsibility to and accountability to share that truth, so that those that are not innately privy to it, that may not be in that bloodline or in that order, that be a descendant of that ancient dynasty or legacy of sorts, will still have a chance to realize it, you know, or be awakened or enlightened for themselves. And again, to apply that knowledge for themselves to the best of their ability. So it's still like just given a new chance at salvation at this point, you know, where it's evolved and more revolutionized now than ever before. Yeah, and like I said, the resistance, for the most part, well, the resistance is to perpetuate ignorance, and also has also worked to strengthen the resilience of the truth itself. Like I said in the beginning, like your survival, your success, your ascension, it hasn't come easy, but there's a whole nother wave, or um, maybe even uh, population of creation that doesn't have that point of reference. Maybe they weren't meant to. You know how it is as a species evolves, or their life continues, creation can get stronger or weaker, and some were built for it tough from the jump, and even still, as there's been a devolvement in certain ways, there's also been evolution in others. And as creation has gotten weaker in different ways, it still gives an opportunity for it to be strengthened again, and renewed and regenerated in this day and age, where they may not have had the privilege, again, of a first-hand encounter or point of reference or reflection, or be a descendant of a bloodline that's been here since the beginning of time or whatever. But now what you do have is the information. You do have the testimony. You do have the evidence of the witnesses. You do have cold hard evidence of this truth. Now, again, how you interpret that, how you receive that, you allow yourself to be persuaded by illusions and delusions, or captivated by such, that will still be within your own power. But the truth is present. It's present, and it's more solid than ever before. It's no longer just a figment of faith, or is it not about to be. There's something that's about to come through this veil of reality that is going to be undeniable. No one will be able to deny what they see. It's just a matter of how they interpret or receive what they see. That's it. We weren't all here to see a Jesus on the cross, or even to hear about it from a disciple or a second generation of whomever, like Pat being in a passed down oration of a story that wasn't so far removed. We ages beyond that at this point, which is and so many conflicts with the purity of the original text and the original story, that again make it easy to not believe, or make it easy to be skeptical anyway, justifiably. But now is something that is coming, emerging, where it's just like a UFO coming. I mean, of course, there have been different things that people have captured here and there that are so-called like evidence of extraterrestrial presence. You know what I mean? Like we've seen stuff, but like I said, it's been questionable. Like, well, is that, or you see a light or whatever, and it looks a little weird, but what is it? Is it a drone? Is it special effects? Is it AI? You don't really know. But it's like, no, whatever this is, it will be broadcasted wide scale, globally, let's say, maybe universally. And it'll be one of those things that when like, oh shit, okay, this is real. Now, some people, again, might still look at it and be like, is that AI or whatever, whatever. But it's something about it's like like coins falling from the sky. It's like something about it that's going to be so believable that you would almost have to talk yourself out of it not to believe what your eyes are seeing. Those that already have the eye to see will know on sight, but those that may not, or their eyes might be a little bit hazy, might still have room to question, but not on account of the authenticity of what's being projected. That part will be undeniable. It'll just be a matter of, again, perception and interpretation. But every eye will see. What's that? The Six of Swords, yeah, and it's about to be a transport to some new reality, especially for those that are in alignment with it and are willing to receive the message. Six of Swords. It's going to be a transmission that serves as transportation to a much more peaceful, calmer existence, similar to what I was talking about in the beginning. A time and place where harmony and balance are just an everyday way of life. That's what this transmission can be the ticket to, for those that are open to receive it. And there may be a challenge for some, I'm not gonna lie. It might not be easy, it might not be overnight for all, but it's like it's undeniable, and it's like irrefutable that this is a way to a harmonious life. By the perception of this reality, the realization of it, the integration with it, and so on and so forth, there's your ticket on that boat. Wow, I don't even know. Oh, and here's the Lovers. Yeah, it's about that choice. That choice, that optimal choice to choose self, to choose your supreme self at that, to trust what you feel a supreme source is transmitting to you, showing you, telling you, where it's guiding you. And there still will be noise and interference on that channel. There can be. But when you're constantly adjusting to hear on the clearest frequency you possibly can, you'll know what to do, you'll know where to go, you'll know how to get there, you'll know what not to do and how not to go, and who not to take, and so on and so forth. Like, you'll know how to respond to what you're sensing. However you sense supernatural or supreme intelligence in this case. Sometimes it could be messages in your waking life. Sometimes it could be messages by others, witnesses, testimonies, teachers, so on and so forth. They have a first-hand account. Sometimes it can be signs and signals that may even seem unnatural or otherworldly or whatever, but it's still going to come down to whether or not you choose to receive the message and activate it in your waking life in the way that makes the most sense to you. You're privy to it, that's for sure. Everyone is at this point, or will be. Yeah, but here's the Four of Cups once again. Like, that's that intuition, that spiritual transmission here, that some will receive it and activate it and assert it, and some will be like, nah, I'm good. I like life the old way, the sure way, the way that seems right, the way that I don't have to think too hard or feel too much. I prefer that. And so they shall have it. Ain't nobody gonna force nobody to have it any other way, but the circumstances of that choice will become so pressurized, and I'll say so unsavory, that eventually and ultimately you'll either wish you had done something differently, or you actually will seek to do something differently or be something altogether different. So the moral of the story is that there's hope for all to reach that peaceful shore of balance and harmony, that sacred space that feels like salvation from a chaotic existence. It's just like the power's kind of in your hands to receive the mode of transportation through transmission that will lead you there. All right, well, I'm gonna leave that there. I know that was a lot, so he that have an ear, let him hear. Thanks for rocking with me if you're still here. And until next time, as always, I leave you with peace.